Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
Maintenance Technician number 519, Chen Ming, welcome to Wake Up. Today is March the 12th, 5601 AD. Please go to the maintenance staff office No. 125 in the office area as soon as possible to collect your personal terminal and work kit. Chen Ming waved his hand stiffly and climbed out of the cryostasis chamber, where he was. His confused brain just received the content of the voice into his brain, but did not digest it, so Chen Ming could not understand what happened to him at all. After an unknown amount of time, Chen Ming finally focused his scattered mind. However, when Chen Ming observed the environment around him, his breathing suddenly stagnated. Where am I? Chen Ming looked around nervously, and he seemed to be in a place that looked very shabby. A room made of metal materials as a whole, with 4 devices similar to the one he just stood up on the 4 corners of the room, and in the corner next to the door near the exit, something appeared that made Chen Ming even more nervous. A scattered human skeleton, and a corpse of some kind of super large insect, whose insides had rotted away, leaving only the shell. The 2 corpses were close together, as if telling Chen Ming what happened before they died. Chen Ming breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that they were really just corpses, and hurried to confirm his own situation. The last memory before he woke up from here was the speeding truck. If the hospital hadn't grown like this, then he would basically have one possibility now. Crossing. Chen Ming took a few deep breaths and forced himself to calm down. This kind of experience is actually quite good for him. He has no parents, and his daily life can't be called life, it can only be called survival. Having a new beginning is undoubtedly a blessing from God for him. But now, Chen Ming must at least find a way to figure out where he is. Chen Ming quickly searched his body, but found nothing. But just when Chen Ming woke up, the voice of the broadcast seemed to have mentioned his identity, Maintenance Technician number 519, and asked him to go to that office to pick up something. Chen Ming moved his limbs a little vigorously and felt that his physical condition was still good. Although it seemed that he had been frozen in the freezer next to him for a long time, he did not feel uncomfortable when he moved. Going to that office should not be a problem. Moreover, the environment Chen Ming was in now always made him feel uncomfortable, so it was better not to stay here. But before that, Chen Ming suddenly noticed that there was a pistol that looked very sci-fi under the human skeleton. Chen Ming hurried up to pick it up, and held it in his hand. Half groping and half learning from the video of using a gun that he had seen on the internet, he turned off the safety, removed the magazine, and then reinstalled it, and adjusted the safety to a state where it could be fired. Although I don't know whether this pistol that has been lying here for a long time can still be used, it at least gives Chen Ming some confidence to deal with unknown dangers. Next to the skeleton is the only closed metal door in the room, which should lead to the outside world. There is a striking button on the wall next to the door. Seeing that there was nothing else around to open the metal door, Chen Ming reached out and pressed it. A mechanical female voice sounded. A vacuum environment has been detected. Please press the button again to confirm the opening of the buffer compartment. Please make sure that the protective suit is fully worn. A vacuum environment. Am I in space? Chen Ming frowned and stepped on the solid metal floor. He did not see any signs that he was in space, but he did not dare to bet that the sound was wrong. He could only turn around and start searching the room to see if there was anything that could help him. The panic after waking up made Chen Ming not notice that many places in the room were actually hidden. Under the cryostasis chamber where he woke up, there is a compartment that can be opened. Inside is a suit that can cover the whole body, similar to a space suit, but it looks very light. This should be the protective suit. In the compartments under several other unmanned cryo chambers, Chen Ming did not find a spacesuit like this protective suit. However, Chen Ming found a personal terminal that can often be seen in science fiction movies on the ground next to the freezer. What Chen Ming didn't expect was that this terminal actually started up under his random operation. Although the battery power displayed was not much, it should be enough for Chen Ming to figure out some things. Just before Chen Ming was about to study its usage, a series of familiar and unfamiliar memories suddenly appeared in Chen Ming's mind as if stimulated. This is Chen Ming's past memory, and Chen Ming's past memories as a maintenance technician are constantly emerging. Let Chen Ming understand his current situation. Chen Ming is now in a mining space station belonging to the human empire, located on an asteroid ring of a marginal planet, in a galaxy on the edge of human expansion. The existence of the planetary ring makes the habitable planet below have a very suitable climate for human habitation, but the meteorites that fall from time to time make people have no idea of settling down. However, these asteroids rich in various rare minerals in the asteroid ring have attracted a commercial company to buy the mineral mining rights of this planet. They built a mining space station here, and opened it to all humans. And Chen Ming is a professional maintenance technician of the company that owns the mineral mining rights of this planet. He got this task that requires long-term cryogenic hibernation, and only comes out to work when necessary. During the cryogenic hibernation period, the commercial company will still calculate Chen Ming's salary. So Chen Ming, who has no parents and no friends, applied for this job smoothly. The main memory of himself from this world ended the moment he lay in the cryogenic hibernation chamber. Although more details of the memory are still emerging in Chen Ming's mind, they are all scattered fragments. Chen Ming still doesn't know what happened in the mining space station. However, relying on the usage techniques of some tools, including the terminal, that were instilled in his memory, Chen Ming quickly retrieved a log record on the terminal. Based on the content of the log, Chen Ming can roughly guess that this terminal and the recorded log should belong to the skeleton in the room, and he seems to be a doctor. The content of the log is mostly about the daily regular health checks of the people inside the cryostasis chamber. And in the last few pages of the log, that is, around April 5569 AD, about 30 years ago, the content of the log changed. As usual, the mining space station captured an asteroid that may contain rare mineral resources in the asteroid ring. When the first rare mineral was mined, everyone celebrated. However, the next day, a sudden riot broke out in the area where the mining equipment was placed. Countless bugs poured out from here, spread throughout the space station, and slaughtered the people in the space station. The interior of the asteroid not only contained rare minerals, but also the nests of these terrifying bugs. They hibernated for a long time inside the asteroid, and woke up after being extremely stimulated. Chen Ming still wanted to know what happened next, but the content in the log stopped abruptly. The doctor had died here with the bug, and the final result of this incident was obvious. All the people in the mining space station were killed, and the space station was abandoned. 30 years have passed. In other words, Chen Ming is now in an abandoned mining space station full of Zerg. Chen Ming subconsciously glanced at the white bones and the shells of the bugs next to him. Such a large bug should be able to bite him to death easily. Although the bugs were scary, Chen Ming felt that it was more likely that he would starve to death. He did not find any food in the room, so Chen Ming turned his head and glanced at the rusty door next to him, hesitating whether to go out like this. Those Zergs could sleep inside the asteroid for so long. Could they still be in this mining space station, waiting for him outside the door? While he was still hesitating, the last memory fragment of the maintenance engineer Chen Ming completely merged into Chen Ming's mind. Then, 2 lines of words suddenly appeared in his mind. No spacecraft signal access detected. Please access as soon as possible to complete the brain control signal connection and initialization. What is this? The 2 lines of words that suddenly appeared in Chen Ming's mind made Chen Ming completely stunned. Is this given by his identity as a maintenance technician, such as some electronic implants in his brain? Or is it an ability that comes with time travel? Chen Ming has no way to distinguish, but no matter which one it is possible, it seems that he has the ability to control the spacecraft with his mind. Chen Ming is a little unbelievable, but the real texture of the place where he is now makes him completely unable to doubt it. Since staying in this room is just waiting to die, why not go out? Go find a spaceship to connect and see if this thing in his mind can help him get out of the current predicament. Even if it is not for the spaceship, Chen Ming must at least find out if there is any food in the space station. Being bitten to death by insects while looking for food is always more painful than dying of starvation. Chen Ming put on the protective clothing with some difficulty, not sure whether it can play a protective role. He returned to the door with a gun and pressed the button. The mechanical female voice sounded again. A vacuum environment is detected. Please press the button again to confirm the opening of the buffer compartment. Please make sure that the protective suit is fully worn. Chen Ming listened to the heavy breathing under his protective suit and pressed the button again. The door opened and a compartment appeared in front of Chen Ming. After entering the compartment, the door behind Chen Ming closed, and a hissing exhaust sound rang in his ears, but the sound soon disappeared. He should be entering a vacuum environment. At the same time, Chen Ming suddenly noticed 2 lines of words on the corner of the protective suit helmet. Remaining oxygen value, 99.9%. Remaining power value, 99.9%. This is the oxygen that sustains human life, and the power that maintains the temperature inside the protective suit. Chen Ming roughly calculated the speed of falling down, and it could last for about 2 hours. If he couldn't find the spacecraft or find food to come back within 2 hours, the consequences would be disastrous. Chen Ming's time was very tight. The airtight door outside the isolation room, which had been sealed for a long time, opened. Chen Ming did not step out rashly, because of the urgency of time, but stuck his head out and observed carefully. A new scene appeared in front of Chen Ming, a dilapidated corridor. The corridor was full of holes, and you could see the more complex and larger metal structure outside. There was also a space with countless light spots flashing in the darkness. Chen Ming stood there for a few seconds, and realized that it was not the time to look at the space. After confirming that there was no danger nearby, Chen Ming followed the space station map he found on his personal terminal, and stepped into the corridor. He was very careful about his steps to avoid falling out of any hole. After all, there was an inexplicable gravity on this space station. Once you fall out, it is unknown whether you can get back. Chen Ming walked all the way to the direction written on the map, towards the office area, where the voice broadcast just now was. According to the instructions on the map, Chen Ming will pass by the cafeteria, and a public area for people to rest on the way to the office. He can also find some food in the cafeteria. If you go further, it is the dock of the space station. Chen Ming can also go there directly to take a look. Maybe he can find a spaceship. Along the way, Chen Ming forced himself not to be distracted by the deep starry sky outside, and quickly passed through his residential area. When passing the canteen, Chen Ming tried to look for it in the back kitchen, but it was obvious that after 30 years, there was nothing left in the canteen. What's worse is that there are several fast passages connecting the public area next to the canteen and the mining area located at the lower level, which is convenient for the staff at the lower level to quickly come up to eat. Therefore, Chen Ming found some terrible things. Some things that were still wriggling, like insect eggs, were attached to the disgusting growth in a corner of the public area. Although Chen Ming had already had psychological expectations for this, these insects can survive inside the asteroid, and it is not surprising that the eggs have been preserved in the vacuum until now. But even if there is a psychological expectation, Chen Ming still feels a little numb when he really sees it. He didn't dare to stay any longer and left here quickly. Chen Ming didn't even want to go to the office, and trotted all the way to the dock. The damage here is more serious than that in the living area, and most of the place is basically exposed to space. If it weren't for the magnetic force on the floor under his feet, Chen Ming felt that he would fly out at any time. Fortunately, Chen Ming actually saw several spaceships parked here. Chen Ming picked a spaceship that looked the newest in appearance, came to it, stretched out his hand and pressed it. Spaceship signal detected. Do you want to connect? Chen Ming showed a relieved expression. Connect. As Chen Ming finished speaking, a panel popped up in front of him. Spaceship panel. Ship name, iron ore. Type, small civilian mining cargo ship. Fuel reserve, 19%. Port side weapon, 22mm machine gun, damaged. Starboard side weapon, 22mm machine gun, in operation. Armor, aluminum steel composite external armor. Engine, civilian escort engine. Built-in cabins, captain's cabin, engine cabin, work cabin, planting cabin, living cabin, storage cabin. Important equipment, bridge control system module, in operation. Stance traction module, in operation. Life support system module, in operation. Imitation gravity module, in operation. Landing module, damaged. Hyperspace channel system module, missing. In addition to this extremely detailed panel introducing the spaceship information, there is also a drop-down box below the panel. Spaceship maintenance guide. The words are clearly written on it. Chen Ming's finger swiped lightly, and he could see the repair method of the damaged parts displayed on the panel. At the bottom of this interface, there is a button with the word, repair. Chen Ming tried to press it, and a sudden mental fatigue almost made him lose his balance. Then a prompt appeared in front of him. Missing the necessary materials. Repair failed. Chen Ming was stunned, as if he understood what was going on. At the same time, Chen Ming also felt a feeling he had never had before. After clicking the repair button just now, the spaceship in front of him was like his own body, and he could control it at will. He was now on the starboard side of the spaceship, and the 22mm machine gun on the starboard side was not damaged. Under the control of Chen Ming's consciousness, the machine gun turned on the base of the turret, and aimed at the way he came. Seeing that he could really rely on consciousness to control the spaceship, Chen Ming's heart was somewhat excited, and could not be suppressed. Ordinary maintenance technicians could never do this. This should be the ability he had after crossing. Chen Ming stood at the hatch of the spaceship, controlled the hatch to open, and walked into the interior of the spaceship. The front and back of the spaceship are the captain's cabin and the engine cabin respectively, and the remaining 4 cabins are evenly distributed between the 2 cabins, occupying the remaining space inside the entire spaceship. The position where Chen Ming went up was at the center of the entire spaceship. The moment Chen Ming boarded the spaceship, as long as he wanted, he could close the hatch and start the spaceship to leave here at any time. However, the remaining fuel amount displayed on the panel, and the prompt that the landing module was damaged made Chen Ming hesitate, and the food problem would also be a trouble for him. So Chen Ming came to the door of the storage cabin as soon as he entered the spaceship and opened the hatch. Some things that looked like minerals were stored here, and there was a compartment inside the storage cabin. The 3 words, refrigerated room, were clearly written next to the compartment, which made Chen Ming full of expectations for what was stored inside. But when the hatch opened, what Chen Ming saw was not frozen canned food, but a frozen hard insect corpse and an insect egg that was trembling wildly due to the stimulation of the opening of the compartment door. Fuck, Chen Ming cursed subconsciously and raised the pistol he had picked up. After a slight recoil feedback, the insect eggs exploded directly. The body of an unformed insect was torn into pieces, covering the empty cold storage room. Chen Ming reached out to wipe the stains on the helmet of his protective suit, turned around and left, closing the door of the compartment. Chen Ming forced himself not to recall the disgusting scene just now, but walked quickly to the planting cabin next to him. However, this place was also empty like the cold storage room. Chen Ming continued to force himself to think about where to get food. If he couldn't get food as soon as possible, then starving to death would only be his final destination. Or, Chen Ming looked at the captain's room, where there was a frozen hibernation chamber in the corner, but this was actually an emergency escape chamber. Chen Ming could abandon the ship and escape falling into the planet below, seeking life there. Only a fool would do that. Until the last moment, Chen Ming didn't want to leave his life to fate. Chen Ming took out his personal terminal with little power left, found a wire in the living cabin, and connected it to the spacecraft's power grid. While charging, Chen Ming was looking for something on the map of the space station. Soon, what he wanted to find appeared in his eyes. If the mining space station is to operate for a long time, then some places must be indispensable. A cold storage for storing a large amount of frozen food, and a warehouse for storing fusion fuel to maintain the operation of the space station. If Chen Ming wants to survive, he has to go to the cold storage to find food. If you want to live longer, you have to leave this dangerous space station, and fuel becomes a necessity. But it is not a smart decision to leave on a damaged spacecraft. Chen Ming had better go to the office that the voice broadcast prompted him before, and get the repair kit that Chen Ming, a repairman, should get. At the same time, according to the prompts of the spacecraft repair guide, get enough materials. Even if a lot of equipment on the spacecraft has problems, he might be able to fix them all. Chen Ming thought about what he needed to survive and plan the next route on the map of the space station. The first place to go must be the maintenance staff office No. 125 in the nearest office area to get the repair kit. Then go to the power generation area to get fuel. After all, the spacecraft only has 19% of remaining fuel, and God knows how long it can last. The power generation area is below the living area where Chen Ming woke up at the beginning. Because the power generation equipment generates heat, it can provide a certain insulation effect for the living area, so it is arranged there. The power generation area should be safer than the cold storage on the middle layer, between the public area and the mining area. Chen Ming plans to wait until all the fuel and tools are in hand before considering the issue of going to the cold storage. After Chen Ming chose the route, he did not hesitate. After confirming the approximate location, he ran all the way there. Chen Ming found his name on a cabinet in the maintenance office. The cabinet door was not locked, and Chen Ming easily got a suitcase-sized repair kit and his own brand new personal terminal. Chen Ming did not stop and went directly to the power generation area with the suitcase. On the way, he carefully avoided the public area full of disgusting growths and insect eggs, and also successfully found fuel in a small cart. After 3 trips back and forth, the fuel of the spacecraft was replenished, and there was still a lot of remaining fuel. Chen Ming noticed that there was not much oxygen and electricity left in his protective suit, so after transporting the fuel for the last time, Chen Ming pushed the small cart he found in the power generation area to the public area, and approached the passage between the upper and lower floors. Chen Ming held the gun tightly in his hand, and he would respond to any changes in the first time. The passages up and down the public area were not blocked by growths and insect eggs, and Chen Ming went down to the cold storage floor with some fear. After using the authority of the maintenance technician terminal to open the door of the cold storage, an empty warehouse appeared in front of Chen Ming. There was nothing left in the cold storage. However, there was an emergency supply room in the corner of the cold storage, which was Chen Ming's last hope. Chen Ming pushed the cart and opened the door of the emergency supply room. After noticing that the oxygen ratings of the protective suit began to recover after entering the emergency supply room, Chen Ming closed the door of the room. There were only packages of things, like military dry food packaging stored inside. There were 6 words written on it: package survival food. There was no brand, no expiration date, and some only had an ingredient list. Chen Ming tore open the package, and inside was a block that looked like luncheon meat. After confirming that there was still oxygen in the emergency supply room, Chen Ming took off his helmet and smelled the luncheon meat, but did not smell any special smell. He broke off a small piece and put it in his mouth to chew, but did not swallow it. After chewing for about 3 or 4 minutes, Chen Ming seemed to taste a hint of meat in his mouth, so he spit out the food in his mouth. Next, just wait for a while. If there is no discomfort, then these packaged survival foods that have been stored for decades should be edible. And Chen Ming estimated that there should be nothing else to eat in the space station, so he moved all the packaged survival foods in the emergency supply room onto the cart and planned to leave. Just as he went back to this level of the public area, Chen Ming suddenly found that the insect eggs around him seemed to start moving. What's going on? Chen Ming's heartbeat instantly accelerated, and the movement of his legs also began to speed up. The insect eggs around him trembled more and more violently, and under the reflection of the light of the lower level that Chen Ming had just passed, there seemed to be many shadowy things moving in the passage between the upper and lower levels behind him. That was the insect eggs in the lower level that had hatched. Chen Ming's forehead was instantly covered with cold sweat. Could it be that the cold storage had been sealed all along, and when Chen Ming opened it, the cold air, or the hot air relative to the temperature of space, escaped outside and stimulated the insect eggs? Chen Ming was not sure what the reason was, but he was sure what he should do now. Chen Ming no longer cared whether his movements were too large, and just ran towards the direction of the spacecraft. He ran all the way and fled to the vicinity of the iron or spacecraft. Although no sound could be heard in the vacuum, Chen Ming could easily sense that the vibration under his feet was getting faster and closer. When a sense of danger was about to come, Chen Ming pushed the cart full of food and fell to the ground. At this moment, Chen Ming's eyes appeared with the picture of the camera connected to the machine gun on the spacecraft. Before the group of newly hatched insects that followed him pounced on him, the 22mm caliber machine gun opened fire. There were no gunshots in the vacuum, but the flickering fire and the occasional hits on his back made Chen Ming aware of the situation he was experiencing. And the situation was getting worse. Chen Ming could see that in the office area not far away, several insects taller than humans appeared, which were definitely not newly hatched adults. Chen Ming immediately got up from the ground, and the next moment, a larva that was lucky enough to survive directly grabbed Chen Ming's shoulder. The sharp mouthparts could tear Chen Ming's protective suit apart in the next second, causing Chen Ming to die in the vacuum. Chen Ming's hair stood up at this moment, and he raised his pistol at a speed he had never seen in his life, and shot the insect that looked like an alien larva on his shoulder. Chen Ming did not make any extra movements at all. He quickly picked up the scattered packaged food next to the cart that had just been pushed out, and pushed the cart onto the iron ore. The hatch was quickly closed, and the engine of the iron ore started at the fastest speed with full fuel. The tail flame from the tail of the spacecraft pushed the iron ore out of the dock. Chen Ming put the cart aside and rushed to the captain's room, looking at the abandoned mining space station that was gradually moving away from the porthole, and the insects that seemed to be roaring with their mouths wide open but were powerless. The tension in Chen Ming's heart finally relaxed. At least now, he was safe. Chen Ming took off his protective suit and hung it next to the charging port in the captain's room. Breathing the oxygen provided by the life support system on the spacecraft, all the pressures caused by the environment in his heart were dissipated. He had been busy in the space station for nearly 2 hours, and he almost died here several times, but fortunately, everything was worth it. The suitcase-sized repair kit at his feet, the fusion fuel that could support the operation of the spacecraft piled in the storage room, and the small cart filled with packaged survival food that he had just put in the central passage of the spacecraft. Chen Ming now has no discomfort except fatigue, which means that these packaged survival foods are completely edible. These things that he had worked so hard to get are the foundation and confidence for Chen Ming to survive. The only thing he couldn't get in the space station just now is the materials for repairing the spacecraft equipment, but the warehouse area, where the space station stores various materials, is on the mining area level, and Chen Ming didn't plan to go to such a dangerous place from the beginning. If he had gone there, he would have become food for insects now. Chen Ming shook his head, threw away the terrible thoughts, and didn't think about what would happen if he did something. He planned to take advantage of the time when his body needed to rest after being busy for 2 hours. He used his brain on his future plans. He had just driven the spaceship away from the mining space station, which could only be said to be the most dangerous period of his coming to this world. But there were more problems and troubles waiting for Chen Ming. The spaceship had limited fuel reserves, and the food he could get from the space station was also limited. This meant that Chen Ming could not drift in space forever, so no matter what, Chen Ming had to return to the human world. He was currently in the Edge star field, and there were basically no human colonies nearby. Therefore, Chen Ming had to settle for the second best and choose to go to the nearest galaxy with an open military outpost. At that time, he could contact the army station there for help, and use the military's Stargate technology that could jump between galaxies to return to the human world. As for why Chen Ming was so confident that the army would help him, because in Chen Ming's memory, although the military outposts are called military outposts, they are not only populated by military personnel. In marginal galaxies lacking infrastructure, these military outposts are actually equivalent to large central space stations in prosperous galaxies, provide all kinds of conveniences for human beings to navigate various galaxies, and provide some logistical support for those who explore the cosmic territory. Chen Ming is a person after all, and a regular maintenance technician with the identity of a company employee. There is no problem in asking for help when he encounters danger. As long as he gets there, Chen Ming's most basic survival will definitely be guaranteed. So the biggest problem for Chen Ming now is, how long does it take for him to reach the nearest galaxy, where the military outpost is located from the abandoned mining space station on the orbit of the marginal planet of the marginal galaxy in this marginal star field. Chen Ming opened the galaxy map near the mining space station on his personal terminal, and marked the galaxy where the space station is located, and the galaxy where the nearest public military outpost is located on the screen. Although the distance between the 2 points is not long on a cosmic scale, it is not short for Chen Ming. In Chen Ming's memory, he came to the space station on the company's spaceship, which did not take much time, but the company's spaceship has a hyperspace channel system, and the spaceship he found clearly has the words, hyperspace channel system, missing. In the absence of a hyperspace channel system on the iron ore, it would definitely take a lot of time to fly this distance. Chen Ming must be fully prepared for a long-term space voyage before he can set off there. So Chen Ming left the captain's room, and pushed the cart parked in the aisle into the storage cabin. For the time being, he did not care about the bodies of insects and insect eggs in the refrigerator, but first counted the food piled on the cart. It turned out that these packaged survival foods could only last for 3 months at most. 3 months of food, 3 months of survival time. Chen Ming did not want to starve to death halfway through the spaceship, so he could not just go to the military outpost without thinking. Chen Ming returned to the captain's room again, sitting in a chair thinking about how to solve the food problem. Chen Ming already had a general idea of the solution, and the planting cabin inside the spacecraft could be fully utilized. But the idea is not the key lies in the execution process, and the possibility of execution. However, just as Chen Ming lowered his head slightly, his eyes suddenly saw the communication equipment on the control panel of the spacecraft bridge. Chen Ming suddenly realized something. If he wanted to return to the human world, it seemed that there was no need to drive the spacecraft back by himself. If we can find a way to connect the spacecraft's communication equipment to the space station's communication anchor point, we can contact the nearest military outpost. They might be able to send a rescue ship to take us back directly. Chen Ming touched his chin, and began to think about whether his idea was feasible. But when Chen Ming focused his eyes on the abandoned mining space station not far away, he realized something was wrong in an instant. After integrating the memories of the maintenance engineer Chen Ming knew the brain circuits of the people in the upper echelons of the company very well. Even if the company was generous in paying him a salary during his hibernation, it could not change their greedy nature. He was an insignificant little person, and he was given a salary that was not a sweet thing for them. But this mining space station, although located in the marginal star field, often obtained some rare minerals that could not be bought with money. How could the upper echelons of the company give it up casually? They bought the mineral mining rights of the planet, and a mining right lasted at least 100 years. It has only been 30 or 40 years since the space station was built. Could it be that the company has no reaction at all? If so, they should have found me, as an employee of the company, out of the hibernation chamber and taken me away. What are they doing? And although the insect plague broke out in the space station in the middle of the night, some people should have been able to escape. Where are the people who escaped? Could it be that the news that a space station was occupied by the Zerg has not been spread at all? Why has no one come here after so many years? Even the corpses have not been collected. Chen Ming's heart was full of doubts, and he seemed to have noticed the abnormality of the whole thing of the space station being abandoned. No matter what the hidden story is behind it, the fact that a space station that has brought a lot of benefits to the company has been ignored for 30 years. This matter is definitely not something that a small maintenance technician like me can intervene in. Before confirming what the hidden situation between the space station and the company is, Chen Ming must not contact the military outpost that is very close to the space station through the signal tower of the space station. I have to find a way to return to the human world. The universe is so big. As long as I leave here, no matter what conspiracy is behind the abandonment of the space station, no one can find me. That's how it happened. Chen Ming didn't even want to go to the galaxy where the nearest military outpost was located. If Chen Ming's spaceship was going to enter the space station, the military would definitely find out his identity. If they directly found the record of the iron ore passing through the Stargate decades ago, and the record of his passing through the Stargate on his company's spaceship, it would be no different from Chen Ming directly using the communication anchor of the space station to contact the military outpost. So there are not many options left. Chen Ming's eyes returned to the galaxy map he had just opened. In a small galaxy very close to the galaxy where the military outpost is located, there is a space station belonging to humans that many people know about, but it does not belong to the military in name, but to pirates. This is the space station of space pirates. Of course, pirates are just a general term. Everyone knows how a group of scattered and unorganized criminals can build a space station with complete infrastructure and can be maintained for a long time. There must be someone behind this, and the person who funded it has great power. Otherwise, how could the military, which is only one galaxy away, turn a blind eye to this space station that everyone who makes a living near this marginal galaxy knows about? If Chen Ming chooses to go there will naturally be danger. If he doesn't go to the military outpost, how many good people can choose to go here? But correspondingly, the possibility of exposing himself as a company employee and coming from this abandoned mining space station is also close to zero. Although it will take longer for him to return to the human world, and the pressure to solve the food problem before going there will be greater. But Chen Ming has no more choices at this time. He doesn't want to be involved in the affairs of some big shots, because of his identity and origin, and he doesn't know how he died in the end. The pirate space station became his only choice. Therefore, in order to solve the food problem, the planting cabin of the spacecraft must be used in a way, and the best place to get edible crop seeds. Chen Ming's eyes looked at the blue, green and purple planet directly below the spacecraft. But before considering this matter, Chen Ming stood up from his chair, opened his hands, and leaned on the bridge in front of him. Chen Ming half manually controlled the control panel, and half relied on the assistance of consciousness to set the flight route for the iron ore after leaving the space station. Let it stay in the orbit of the planet in front of it, and keep a certain distance from the abandoned mining space station. Can be seen, but cannot be touched. Prevent insects from floating over from the space station. At the same time, it also prevents himself from losing this extremely dilapidated place in space, but it contains many valuable resources. Chen Ming had thought about it before leaving the space station. Compared with those asteroids in space that contain rare minerals, this space station is more valuable to him. He only has a civilian spacecraft for mining, and he lacks everything. Collecting minerals from asteroids can only replenish the most basic materials needed by the spacecraft, and industrial products cannot make up for it. For example, daily necessities, and some tools and materials for spacecraft equipment. Chen Ming can't just rub a chip out of the repair kit on hand in space. But it's different in the space station. This is a place that needs to maintain long-term operation and provide a living environment for many people. Various sophisticated and professional electronic equipment, various rare metal materials, and various necessities for human life are everywhere in the space station. Even if the bugs on it are very dangerous, Chen Ming can't just give up and leave. Even if it's just to remove some iron sheets from the side, it's more efficient than Chen Ming looking for asteroids with iron resources in space and then smelting them into iron. So even if you want to leave, at least you have to wait until Chen Ming gets enough resources from above. After completing the setting of the spacecraft orbit, Chen Ming's urgent tasks are completed. The fatal crisis will not appear in front of Chen Ming for the time being, and death will come at least in 3 months. And the key to Chen Ming's idea later, food. This problem can only be solved after Chen Ming repairs the landing module of the spacecraft and the spacecraft can land on the planet. To repair the landing module, Chen Ming has to use the repair techniques in his mind, and the 2 points that he can directly open the spacecraft panel. So now, Chen Ming finally has the time, and the need to study the abilities he has gained after crossing. Chen Ming's consciousness is focused on the spaceship, and he opens the panel again. Spaceship panel. Ship name, iron ore. Type, small civilian mining cargo ship. Fuel reserve, 99.8%. Port weapon, 22mm machine gun, damaged. Starboard weapon, 22mm machine gun, in operation. Armor, aluminum steel composite external armor. Engine, civilian escort class engine. Built-in cabins, captain's cabin, engine cabin, work cabin, planting cabin, living cabin, storage cabin. Important equipment, bridge control system module, in operation. Position traction module, in operation. Life support system module, in operation. Artificial gravity module, in operation. Landing module, damaged. Hyperspace channel system module, missing. Except for the fuel column, There is no change on the panel, but Chen Ming suddenly found something he had not noticed before. Chen Ming can click on the columns displayed on the panel to view more detailed data. For example, after clicking on the column, type, small civilian mining cargo ship, a more detailed panel appeared in front of him. Small civilian mining cargo ship, manufacturer, Cinda Rockwell Shipbuilding Company. Ship length 33 meters, ship width 15 meters, ship height 7 meters, tonnage 2,000 tons, power source, civilian grade fusion reactor, maximum speed, standard speed, spacecraft bearing point, standard civilian grade, small bearing point *2, hyperspace channel system, loadable. Looking at this newly emerged panel, Chen Ming quickly retrieved several new concepts on this new panel in his memory. Combining his own memory and the content introduced on a small panel that popped up after clicking on these items on the panel again, Chen Ming roughly summarized it. The bearing point is a basic component or facility used by the spacecraft to place ship weapons, protecting the spacecraft so that the recoil of the weapon will not affect the normal operation of the spacecraft. All ship weapons must be placed on it. If it is placed in other places on the spacecraft, it is easy to cause some unnecessary damage during the operation of the spacecraft. Civilian escort class spacecraft such as the Iron were designed with only 2 small load-bearing points for installing some small weapons for self-defense. Military spacecraft, or larger spacecraft of higher levels, such as destroyer class and cruiser class spacecraft, can be installed with more load-bearing points, and the installed load-bearing points can also be larger. The standard speed of this maximum speed refers to the maximum speed of the spacecraft in the normal cosmic environment, 99% of the speed of light. This is the standard speed of interstellar navigation that all spacecraft in this world, including civilian ships, can reach. Of course, it takes a long time for civilian ships to accelerate to reach the maximum speed. So when Chen Ming planned the route between the space station and the military outpost before, he said that the distance between the two was not large on a cosmic scale, but it was large for him. His own spacecraft now lacks a hyperspace channel system, and this half-light-year road is not easy to travel. After Chen Ming finished reading the type panel of the spacecraft, he had a general understanding of the spacecraft itself. After thinking for a while, he continued to click on the starboard weapon, which was the column of the intact machine gun, 22mm machine gun. Type, small kinetic weapon, manufacturer, Cinda Rockwell Weapons Company. Ammunition load, 231 1/1000. Effective precision killing range, 2,000 meters. Rate of fire, 240 rounds, minute. Durability, 54%. Available operations, replace, repair. Chen Ming didn't expect that the actual situation of this seemingly intact machine gun was not so good, and it also needed to be repaired. However, in Chen Ming's memory, this type and caliber of machine guns are often used on civilian spacecraft to prevent some meteorites in space and to provide the most basic resistance in combat. The overall structure is relatively simple. As long as there are materials, repairing is the simplest thing. It's just that this panel is different from the one in the spaceship repair guide that Chen Ming opened before. In addition to repair, there is also an additional replace option here. Chen Ming tried to click it. A new panel popped up in front of him, but it was empty. It may be because there are no other spare weapons that can be replaced on the spaceship. Chen Ming turned it off directly. It seems that the replace option will be discussed later. However, this panel also made Chen Ming notice a problem. If you want to operate and understand a certain part of the spaceship in more detail, you must open a more detailed panel. For example, the external armor of the spaceship. On the Spaceship Repair Guide panel just now, Chen Ming can see the overall armor of the spaceship, and the overall durability is about 60%. However, when Chen Ming clicked on the Armor, Aluminum Steel Composite External Armor column, he can also see more detailed details of all the armor of the spaceship, including the front port, starboard, top, bottom, and tail. Chen Ming saw some problems here. The armor on the port side of the spacecraft has been damaged a lot, and the total durability has dropped to 24%. The other armors have also been damaged, and the top and bottom armor have the least loss, both around 80%. The spacecraft as a whole is okay, but in fact a certain place may be in danger, so Chen Ming had better take a close look at all the places on the entire spacecraft panel. If possible, Chen Ming can also go out and take a look in protective clothing to prevent any damaged places from being repaired. Now that the panel has been opened, Chen Ming also plans to try this repair function to experiment in advance for the repair of the landing module later. Before, Chen Ming wanted to repair the entire spacecraft at one time, but there was a problem of insufficient materials. But there should still be materials to repair a machine gun alone. Chen Ming remembered that he had seen some materials when he went into the storage cabin to find food before, and the repair panel just happened to show their existence. It can be used here. Chen Ming got up and entered the storage cabin, and suddenly remembered that there were insect eggs and insect corpses in the refrigerator next to it. However, Chen Ming was not in a hurry to deal with them, for the time being, because sometimes they might become Chen Ming's last choice. Inside the storage compartment, Chen Ming once again took out some that the crew had harvested 30 years ago and stored here. Some of them have even been smelted and cast into ingots and placed here, ready for use at any time. Chen Ming clicked on the panel of the completely damaged machine gun on the panel, 22mm machine gun. Type, small kinetic weapon. Manufacturer, Cinder Rockwell Weapons Company. Ammunition load, 1/1000th. Effective killing range, 2000 meters. Durability, 7%. Available operations, replace, repair. It can be seen that its durability is only a pitiful 7%, and there is only one round of ammunition left in the magazine. Chen Ming didn't think much about it, and directly clicked the repair button on the panel. The new page that popped up showed the various materials needed for repair, and these were enough. Chen Ming clicked the confirmation button again. Then, his brain suddenly seemed to be drained, and a feeling of fatigue instantly surged into his brain. At the same time, the materials needed for repair on the shelf in front of him melted like liquid, flowing out of the spacecraft along the power system of the spacecraft. Through the camera outside the spacecraft, Chen Ming could see that the damaged 22mm caliber machine gun seemed to be absorbing the metal liquid, and the damaged appearance gradually recovered. The durability on the panel was restored to 100%, and the repair button disappeared. Although Chen Ming was not in good condition due to using this repair ability, he was still very satisfied with the effect, and was about to cut off the camera's field of view. But at this moment, Chen Ming suddenly noticed that the number of bullets in the machine gun he had just repaired had returned to 1000/1000ths. Chen Ming thought about it, and tried to fire in the direction of no one. As a result, more than 10 bullets were really fired under Chen Ming's control. But Chen Ming remembered very clearly that there was only one bullet in the barrel of this machine gun before the repair. In order to confirm that he was not dazzled just now, Chen Ming clicked on the panel of another relatively good machine gun again. Its durability was 54%, and there were 231 rounds of ammunition left. Chen Ming pressed the repair button again. Repairing this machine gun requires the same materials, but the number is much less than the completely damaged one just now. Chen Ming chose to confirm. Then the brain felt tired again, and his spirit was exhausted. However, compared with the previous consumption, Chen Ming can still hold on. This time, Chen Ming did not focus all his attention on the metal liquid flowing outside the spacecraft, but also paid attention to the changes in the panel. Just as what happened just now, some of the bullets that Chen Ming had consumed by shooting the bugs chasing him were all replenished, and the reserve bullets returned to 1000/1000ths. Repair can even repair all the lost bullets, which is a bit exaggerated. Seeing this scene, Chen Ming felt that his ability was too magical. Since the effect is so outstanding, Chen Ming does not need to worry about repairing the landing system in the future, even if he is only a half-baked repairman with the memory of a repairman. As long as there are materials, he can repair the spacecraft with the panel alone. But Chen Ming does not want to rely solely on this panel. Sometimes he still hopes to do some things within his ability. Learning a technology, or reviewing and mastering a technology will never be a disadvantage. Chen Ming, who felt a little tired, temporarily postponed the repair of the external armor. If he repaired it again, he might faint directly. After taking a short break and relieving his mental fatigue, Chen Ming planned to do something else next. For example, he would consider how to use the planting chamber. Chen Ming only took a look at the equipment in the planting cabin when he first boarded the ship. Because Chen Ming was looking for food at the time, he didn't pay much attention to it after he found the planting cabin empty. So Chen Ming didn't know what the equipment in the planting cabin was used for and how it worked. So Chen Ming's thoughts returned to the previous question, how to use the planting cabin. In this way, when he landed on the planet later, he could have a faster and more correct plan. Chen Ming clicked on the planting cabin column on the cabin on the panel. The three-dimensional image of the entire planting cabin suddenly appeared in front of him. Chen Ming looked at the extremely fine image in amazement, and then looked at the panel that appeared with the three-dimensional image. Planting chamber, space, 5*5*5, fixed equipment, hydroponic chamber, stopped, nutrient solution extractor, stop, detachable equipment, solar lamp, stopped. Advanced plant analyzer, stopped. Agricultural machinery components, stopped. Object 500 milliliters crop nutrient solution *2. Chen Ming thought about it and got up and went to the planting chamber. Some things are hard to understand just by looking at the panel, and it is better to see them with your own eyes. This time, Chen Ming entered the planting chamber and took a special look at the overall layout, which was exactly the same as the three-dimensional imaging presented on the panel. That is, after Chen Ming entered the chamber, his appearance was not displayed on it, but this is not an important matter. Chen Ming looked around the entire chamber and looked at the device that occupied the largest area in the entire chamber, almost half of the space. At the same time, he clicked the name of the device displayed on the panel. Hydroponic chamber, hydroponics warehouse, already planted, none, remaining planting space, 100%, nutrient solution reserve, 0 milliliters, current maintenance environment, none. The appearance of the hydroponic warehouse looks very simple. It is a device used to isolate the surrounding environment of the crop planting environment. According to the panel and the introduction of all the functions of the spacecraft in the spacecraft operation manual, found by Chen Ming from the spacecraft computer, it can be seen that the hydroponic warehouse has the function of maintaining the most basic environment required for crop growth. It is large in size, but the function is simple. However, it also has a special feature, that is, it can use nutrient solution to cultivate crops without soil. The efficiency of planting and the utilization rate of unit planting area, as well as the utilization rate of spacecraft space, are very high, and this function needs to be matched with the matching equipment, nutrient solution extractor, to perform. The nutrient solution extractor is right next to the hydroponic warehouse, and the whole looks like a juicer. The upper layer is an opening, which can be filled with various items. The middle layer is a transparent tank with various sophisticated and complex devices inside. The lower level is a small storage space, which contains the two 500 milliliters nutrient solution bottles displayed on the panel. Chen Ming opened its panel. Nutrient solution extractor, raw materials, empty, finished product, none, internal storage, 500 milliliters crop nutrient solution *2. 3 items correspond to the 3 parts. Chen Ming also understood the meaning of the object on the cabin panel at this time, which should refer to all items in the entire room that are not equipment. As long as they are placed in this cabin, they will be detected by the panel. These 2 bottles of nutrient solution should be 30 years old, and I don't know if they have expired. Chen Ming estimated that they should not have expired, otherwise its name might not be nutrient solution, but water or some other suspension. Then there is the raw material of this nutrient solution extractor, which Chen Ming also saw in the spacecraft operation manual. Anything with nutrients for crop production can serve as raw materials. For example, the body of the insect and insect eggs in the cold storage. However, when Chen Ming saw the range of raw materials available, the first thing he thought of was soil. Although he didn't have it on hand for the time being, it was obvious that soil was definitely the most indispensable thing on the planet below. Chen Ming would choose crops to plant from this planet, so it would be perfect to use the soil on the planet to extract nutrient solution. Chen Ming had a general understanding of the 2 fixed devices. As for the other 3 detachable devices, the solar lamp can be used to provide sunlight for crops planted in the hydroponic tank. The agricultural machinery component is an auxiliary device installed on the hydroponic tank. According to its internal program settings, it takes care of the crops inside, which is very worry-free. As for the advanced plant analyzer, its data chip records most of the plants that humans have discovered, which can help Chen Ming distinguish whether the various plants found on the planet later are edible. Even if new plants other than those recorded in the database are found, the analyzer can still analyze the samples to determine whether they are toxic and whether they are edible for humans. The function of this thing determines whether it is the key to whether Chen Ming can survive in the future. Chen Ming understands the planting process of the planting cabin, so the subsequent planning is very simple. Land on the planet, find food, analyze, take off after getting enough seeds and food, leave here, and return to the human world. It looks simple, but in fact, even the first step has not started yet, and it is just planning now. Before officially starting the first step, landing on the planet, Chen Ming needs to repair the damaged landing module of the spacecraft. Then a very realistic problem was placed in front of Chen Ming again. The materials on the spacecraft are not enough, so Chen Ming chose to continue to enter the work cabin. This spacecraft named Iron Ore is a mining spacecraft. The location of the spacecraft is an asteroid ring with extremely rich mineral materials. How can I be suffocated by the problem of materials? After entering the work cabin, Chen Ming also opened the panel of the work cabin. Working cabin, space, 5*5*5, fixed equipment, asteroid scanning detector, out of service. Ship smelting furnace, out of service. Detachable equipment, type II mining laser transmitter, out of service. Asteroid traction equipment, out of service. Object, none. The functions of these devices on the panel are all written on the names, so Chen Ming does not need to study them too much. Just start using the entire set of equipment, according to the usage process stored in the database of the spacecraft computer. The entire process of scanning, traction, mining, and smelting can be controlled by the computer. But when Chen Ming tried to start the asteroid scanning detector, he found a problem. There are very few asteroids near the mining space station. Either they were cleaned up when the space station was built many years ago, or they were mined when the space station was opened. If Chen Ming wants to find an asteroid containing a large amount of materials needed to repair the landing module, then he must leave the space station and go farther. But Chen Ming does not want to lose the coordinates of the space station, so he had to wait for the planet below to rotate in orbit for a day, confirm the planet's rotation and revolution trajectory, and lock the relative position of the space station close to him before leaving. Chen Ming remembered that the rotation period of the planet below seemed to be similar to that of the Earth. He could wait for a day, and it didn't mean that the spacecraft could do nothing near the mining space station during this period. It's not that there are no asteroids near the space station, but the number is relatively small and the distribution is relatively scattered. He has no experience in using mining equipment, so he can take this opportunity to familiarize himself with the equipment. Try to collect some minerals from asteroids nearby that are not so valuable. Chen Ming's consciousness can control the operation of the spacecraft. Naturally, it can also control the equipment inside the spacecraft. Under the control of Chen Ming's consciousness, the asteroid scanning detector quickly located all the asteroids containing minerals on its own device screen. Although the number is not large, it is enough for Chen Ming to familiarize himself with the spacecraft equipment. Under normal circumstances, this part of the spacecraft system will plan its own route to collect minerals according to the material priority set in advance and the different mineral content inside the asteroid. However, Chen Ming is just doing experiments now, so he manually locked an asteroid half the size of a person. The scan found that it contained a large amount of iron and some scattered associated minerals. Among them are materials for repairing the landing module. Chen Ming controlled the spacecraft to approach the asteroid and turned on the asteroid traction device. After locking the target in advance, the asteroid was quickly towed and fixed in the direction of the spacecraft's working cabin. The Type II mining laser started working, and the orange-yellow laser shot out from the side of the cabin quickly shattered it. The traction equipment accurately collected the high-quality ore that was crushed and flew out through the pipes connecting the inside and outside of the spacecraft, and sent it to the ship's smelting furnace. Before the working cabin became hot due to smelting, Chen Ming had the foresight to change into a partially charged protective suit. Staying in the working cabin, watching the ship's smelting furnace gradually separate metal materials with different melting points and cast them into ingots. Until the smelting was over, the slag and waste were discharged from the interior of the spacecraft. Chen Ming came forward and counted the harvest of this mining work at the first time. 36.5 kg of iron, 2 kilograms of zinc, 1.63 kilograms of copper, 0.9 kilograms of lead and 0.3 kilograms of aluminum. The amount of aluminum that Chen Ming hoped to have the most was very small. However, the furnace spit out about half a gram of gold for Chen Ming at the end, which was considered a compensation. Even if we don't consider the value of gold itself, its properties alone determine that it is indispensable in many electronic devices, which means that it is one of the materials Chen Ming needs to repair the spacecraft in the future. Although there are not many desirable and high-value gains, this is just an asteroid that Chen Ming found casually and liked. Any asteroid has such a rich variety of minerals. No wonder the company has to spend so much effort to build a space station in such a ghost place. Just like this, the problem behind the company's abandonment of the space station is even bigger. Chen Ming did not dwell on this problem that he would definitely not be able to think of by just thinking. Instead, he piled the smelting results on a cart and put it in the storage cabin. By the way, he planned to count the warehouse and figure out how much he had now. However, Chen Ming suddenly had an idea before starting and opened the panel of the storage cabin. Storage chamber, space, 5*5*5. Storage room items, metal minerals, iron, zinc, copper, etc. Total 135.15 kilograms. Fuel, fusion fuel, total 492 kilograms. Refrigerator room items, food, packaged survival food, total 102.5 kilograms. Miscellaneous, Thornzerg Broadstrider corpses, Thornzerg Broadstrider egg corpses, total 72.6 kilograms. As expected by Chen Ming, Everything in the warehouse was written on the panel in great detail. But Chen Ming looked at the two miscellaneous items in the refrigerator room, and suddenly didn't know what to say. He didn't expect that this was also counted as one of the items on his spacecraft. After thinking about it, Chen Ming decided to ignore them for now. They might be useful in the future. Chen Ming continued to look at other places on the panel. For example, the large categories of metal minerals and food in the storage area can be clicked to view the different materials contained in each category in more detail. It allows Chen Ming to clearly know what is in the storage cabin. Chen Ming looked through it carefully, and after having a clear understanding of the material situation of his spaceship, he turned off the panel. After all, this kind of thing is rare, and it always makes people feel sad to see an empty warehouse. It may be that the crew of the Iron Ore sold the things they mined directly to the space station, that is, the company, and exchanged them for universal currency to facilitate the next mining activity quickly. Only a small part of the materials that may be used to repair the spacecraft was left. Chen Ming couldn't go to the trouble of the former crew members, who might have died in a corner of the space station for 30 years. At least they left some materials for Chen Ming to repair weapons. And with this mining spaceship, it is not difficult for Chen Ming to start digging from scratch. 3 months may not be enough to go to the pirate space station, but it is more than enough for Chen Ming to mine in space and repair the spaceship and land on the planet. After completing the mining process thoroughly, Chen Ming returned to the work cabin again. The first mining test took less than an hour, and the 10 hours before the planet rotates once cannot be wasted. The mining work of the spacecraft can be fully automated. You only need to set the type of minerals you need in the program, and the spacecraft can automatically navigate, capture, collect, and smelt. Everything is fine except that the smelted minerals cannot be automatically sent to the storage compartment. Although there are not many asteroids with minerals near the space station, it is not possible for the Iron Ore to collect them all in one day. When Chen Ming is resting, he does not need to worry about the spacecraft flying too far away and not finding the space station. The real disadvantage of this system is that the overall fuel consumption of the spacecraft will be higher during mining, but Chen Ming can afford these necessary consumption. After setting the priority of aluminum, gold and other metal materials that are urgently needed to repair the spacecraft on the asteroid scanning detector as the highest, Chen Ming thought about what else he needed to do urgently. He just wanted to get familiar with the overall spacecraft. The spacecraft has a total of 6 cabins: the captain's cabin, the engine cabin, the work cabin, the planting cabin, the living cabin and the storage cabin. I had already seen the engine cabin when I put the fuel before, and there was nothing special to pay attention to, except for a layer of dust in the living cabin. It was actually very clean as a whole, and it could be lived in after a little cleaning. After all, few people want to sleep on the spacecraft after returning to the mining space station after working in space for a long time. So at the end of a mining operation, the former crew packed up the living cabin, left a new set of daily necessities for the next trip, and chose to find a place to live in the space station. Then they never came back. The things left behind were cheap for Chen Ming. At this time, Chen Ming didn't care whether these daily necessities would expire in 30 years. After all, there was nothing in the entire space station that would not expire in 30 years, as long as they could be used. At this point, Chen Ming basically had a complete understanding of the spacecraft. But it was less than 4 hours since Chen Ming woke up from the freezer. Although he was a little tired mentally because he had just repaired 2 machine guns, Chen Ming was not sleepy at all. After thinking about it, Chen Ming now has 2 choices. One is to use the existing materials on the spacecraft to repair part of the spacecraft's external armor. The spacecraft's armor is aluminum steel composite armor. Although the name is aluminum first, steel still accounts for the majority. Compared with the steel material needed to repair the armor, the aluminum consumed now will not affect the subsequent repair of the landing module. Another option is that Chen Ming can take a look at what is in the 2 personal terminals on hand. Chen Ming considered these 2 options. He decisively chose the latter. If he repaired the outer armor of the spacecraft, he might faint while repairing it. He could repair it before he had to rest, and if he fainted, he could fall asleep quickly. So Chen Ming, who had made up his mind, took 2 personal terminals and sat on the chair in the captain's room, together with the starry sky outside the porthole that was constantly changing due to the movement of the spacecraft. He studied the personal terminal with the memory of the repairman Chen Ming. Chen Ming quickly became familiar with the personal terminal in his hand. After all, it is actually similar to a personal computer, and its functions are just that, such as communication, recording, and saving files. However, it doesn't matter what the equipment is like or what functions it has. What matters is what's inside. When he was in the space station before, Chen Ming found the space station map in his log in the doctor's terminal. It let Chen Ming know the situation of the space station, and also provided a lot of convenience for Chen Ming's subsequent actions. This time, The search in the doctor's terminal really found some new things for Chen Ming, some e-books. The contents of the book are mostly about the use of simple medical equipment, the collection of common herbs, and the methods of preparing medicines. Although it seems useless at first glance, there are so many planets in the universe, and even if the names of common plants are listed, I am afraid that the capacity of the entire personal terminal can be filled. But when Chen Ming opened one of the e-books, he found that all the common herbs recorded in the book came from one place, from the planet called Ruimu that the space station orbits. Needless to say, what this means is that the content of the book will have an immeasurable effect on Chen Ming's landing on the planet later, in a completely unfamiliar natural environment. Who can guarantee that he will not get sick or injured in this life? Although Chen Ming just saw the medical box prepared by the former crew in the living cabin, this medical box was placed here 30 years ago. The medical tools inside should still be usable, but medicines must have lost all their medicinal properties in the past 30 years. These are what Chen Ming needs most now. Although the doctor died 30 years ago, he really helped him a lot. If there was a chance, Chen Ming wanted to burn or bury the doctor's body, at least to rest in peace. Chen Ming also looked at his personal terminal. He found his electronic ID and Empire savings card, which is also his salary card. The identity and resume of the maintenance engineer Chen Ming can be seen clearly here. It is very similar to Chen Ming, that is, an ordinary person who was born as an orphan and had a dull and difficult first half of his life. The savings card seems to be unable to be viewed because it is not connected to the internet. I don't know whether the company has continued to pay me in the past 30 years, or whether my name has been erased, or the company is actually gone. Chen Ming didn't think much about it. It's better for me not to have anything to do with the company now. Speaking of which, I don't seem to have found these two functions on the doctor's terminal. Maybe there are, but they are hidden by the doctor. Chen Ming picked up the doctor's terminal again, and soon he really found these two functions in a hidden private folder. Although they are all locked, I can't view the doctor's specific resume and past situation, but Chen Ming still knew the doctor's name, Ding He. If there is a chance to build a grave, maybe he can write his name on it. Chen Ming carefully checked the doctor's terminal again, and after confirming that there was nothing missing, he picked up his own terminal. In addition to finding his ID and savings card in his personal terminal, Chen Ming also found some other things. They were similar e-books to those in the doctor's terminal, but the types were completely different. They were all professional books related to maintenance work. I don't know if there are too few entertainment activities in the space station, or if the doctor and the maintenance engineer Chen Ming both like reading books. Chen Ming himself actually has similar hobbies. After flipping through the terminal casually, Chen Ming saw two books that he was very interested in: Analysis of the Design Ideas of Zinda Company's Spacecraft, and Prerequisites and Applicable Environments for Ship Weapon Modification. In addition, there are some blueprints of weapons and equipment commonly used in civilian ships, as well as their modified blueprints. It just so happens that Chen Ming can't do much on the spacecraft now, so we can take a look and get familiar with the job of a maintenance engineer. If repairing a spaceship still consumes so much energy in the future, then some simple and easy to repair damages should be repaired by myself as much as possible. Although the panel repair is efficient, Chen Ming still feels that it is better to experience the feeling of being drained of energy less times. Chen Ming shook off the messy thoughts, opened the book he was interested in, and while reading, he reviewed the memory of the maintenance engineer in his mind. With the combination of the two, Chen Ming read and digested these professional books very quickly, and he basically understood some of the contents after reading them once. Although he might be a little rusty in practice, since he would need to fly a spaceship across half a light year in the future, he would sooner or later accumulate experience in repairing spaceships. The time spent reading books passed quickly. A few hours later, until the work cabin gave a reminder that the temporary storage was full, Chen Ming reluctantly raised his head from a book called Common Weapon Modification Manual that he was more interested in, came to the work cabin, and sent a batch of newly made metal ingots to the storage cabin opposite. Still like before, most of them were worthless metals such as iron. To be honest, if Chen Ming was really a crew member who made a living by mining on a mining spaceship, then mining like this might not even make back the fuel consumption in the end. But Chen Ming is not now, and the fuel is also from the space station, so it's casual. After putting away the metal ingots, Chen Ming took a few bites of the packaged survival food that he had torn open in the cold storage. Then he continued to immerse himself in the extremely interesting contents on the terminal. The process of reading the book combined with past memories was as if he was doing it himself. Chen Ming kept reading until he felt obviously tired mentally and physically. After collecting a wave of metal ingots produced in the work cabin, he lay on the bed in the living cabin, looking at the 8 o'clock in the morning on the personal terminal, according to the zero time zone of the Earth. Chen Ming silently changed it to 10 o'clock in the evening. In this situation, he can do whatever he wants. Finally, Chen Ming opened the panel, looked at the 24% durability of the port armor on the panel, and chose to repair. Then Chen Ming lost consciousness and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, the first thing Chen Ming did after waking up, it was to empty the temporary storage space of the smelting furnace in the working cabin that was full, so that it could continue to work. Although the smelting furnace would automatically discharge the metal ingots inside after the space was full, but it was obvious that the metal ingots piled on the floor of the storage space exit had blocked the outlet for discharging the metal ingots. After spending some time to deal with the messy metal ingots, Chen Ming returned to the living cabin to wash up and regain his spirits. He returned to the storage cabin and counted the gains during his rest time. Overnight, the weight of iron ingots in the storage cabin reached 419.5 kilograms, followed by copper and tin, 51.4 kilograms and 43.3 kilograms, and then the aluminum that Chen Ming needed most now, 11.5 kilograms. In addition, there were some scattered metal or products, the weight of which was basically between a few hundred grams and a few kilograms. But what caught Chen Ming's attention the most was actually the dozen grams of gold. Such results made Chen Ming nod slightly. It takes about an hour to collect an asteroid. If the rest time for one night is counted, the consumption of flying in the middle, it is beyond his expectation to have so much harvest. Although the iron collected is not valuable, the amount of other metal minerals is not too small. At this efficiency, even if he only works around the mining space station, he should be able to collect the materials needed to repair the landing module in about 10 days. What's more, the spacecraft computer will be able to obtain the planetary orbit data and the space station's revolution data around the planet this afternoon. This means that Chen Ming no longer needs to let the spacecraft follow the space station to lock the position of the space station. After that, he can go deeper into the asteroid ring to find the minerals that Chen Ming needs most. In this way, the efficiency of obtaining minerals will inevitably be higher, and the time to start repairing the landing module will also be advanced. But Chen Ming has to pay more attention in the future. The probability of obtaining asteroids with high mineral content in the asteroid ring far away from the space station will increase, but correspondingly, the number of asteroids themselves will also increase. This means that the spacecraft may hit an asteroid after flying 2 steps, and the weapon guidance system of the spacecraft needs to lock the asteroid and smash it in advance. Some fragmented stones are just tickling for the armor of the spacecraft as long as they are not too fast. But to be honest, Chen Ming thinks this guidance system is a bit unreliable. The spacecraft operation manual states that the weapon guidance system of the spacecraft uses a dynamic object scanning program to scan image signals to lock asteroids. This means that there may be errors in the image scanning process, and it is very likely that some asteroids will be missed. This requires Chen Ming to pay more attention, so Chen Ming chose to open the panel of the spacecraft armor and pressed the repair button. After a mental exhaustion, the metal ingot melted into a liquid with a metallic luster and seeped out of the hull. Just flowing through it can restore the armor to its original state. The pieces of armor exuded a heavy color again. Even though Chen Ming had seen it twice, he still felt a little incredible. Of course, Chen Ming did not repair all the damage to the spacecraft armor at once, as that would make him a little exhausted. So he just restored the durability of all the spacecraft armor to more than 70%. So that it could at least withstand a few asteroid impacts. If the armor durability is reduced to a dangerous level, it is enough to have the ability to withdraw from the asteroid belt. The rest of the morning was spent by Chen Ming, flipping through the e-books in the 2 terminals. At noon, he took a short break to get enough energy. At about 2 p.m., which Chen Ming set himself, the spacecraft suddenly prompted that the space station's orbit had been locked. Chen Ming, who was a little sleepy because of his nap, suddenly became energetic. Sitting back in the captain's seat, the picture of the camera connected to the 2 22mm caliber machine guns appeared in the center of his sight. All the external cameras on the spacecraft were spread around, and all directions outside the spacecraft could be seen without blind spots. Chen Ming really couldn't think of any way to solve the guidance system error in the whole morning, except to repair the armor so that the spacecraft could withstand a few more asteroid impacts. So in the end, he had to do this, controlling the flight of the spacecraft himself, and assisting in the control of the weapon guidance system. He would make up for the asteroids that the computer missed, and the computer would make up for the ones he missed. If neither he nor the computer saw it, there would be no other way. The spacecraft could still withstand a few hits. Chen Ming moved around a little in his chair, and became familiar with the overall control of the spacecraft. Even if he had to distract himself to control the 2 turrets, he had to operate the spacecraft's own movement at the same time, and pay attention to all the cameras on the outside of the spacecraft. Chen Ming didn't feel awkward or flustered at all. It was as if he was the brain of the spacecraft, and all the equipment on the spacecraft were his organs, and he could use them as if he were his own arms. Dividing his mind into two parts was nothing compared to what Chen Ming was doing now. Chen Ming enjoyed the feeling of being in control of everything on the spacecraft, and then started the scanner. At a certain distance from the space station, he found an area of asteroid rings with medium density. After all, it was the first time to actually control the spacecraft, and weapons to enter a dangerous place, so Chen Ming thought it would be better to be safe. After gaining experience and becoming proficient in controlling the spacecraft, he would go to more dangerous places, with denser asteroids to collect minerals. After a period of flight, the spacecraft entered the area with a medium number of asteroids, scanned in advance from the side close to the space station. Through the fine scanning function of the asteroid scanning detector, the minerals inside the asteroid were scanned. Soon, the scanner found an asteroid that looked ordinary in appearance, but the scan results showed that the aluminum content inside was very high. Chen Ming immediately moved the spacecraft closer. On the way to the spaceship, Chen Ming controlled two machine guns to fire from time to time, smashing the asteroids that were about to hit the spaceship. With the help of the guidance system, this matter was relatively easy for Chen Ming. At the same time, the automation system of the working cabin was executing, and soon the asteroid that entered the traction range was captured. Although the working cabin can work under Chen Ming's conscious control, a working cabin will not burden Chen Ming to control the operation of the spaceship. However, Chen Ming still chose to let the computer control this part of the function, and he focused all his attention on the spaceship driving and weapon system to prevent the spaceship from being hit by the dense meteorites and asteroids here. After all, if you do one thing for a long time, your attention may be scattered, not to mention two things that need to be done for a long time, at the same time without mistakes. Chen Ming also chose the most reliable way in this regard. The purpose is to make his previous plan proceed smoothly and step by step.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.